Hello and welcome to this week's show where we'll be talking about marketing. As you see, we listened to your feedback and most of the feedback asked for the show to be moved to Sunday evenings. This is a slot where we can. This is a slot where most can view. Oops, my volume is the feedback. So today in studio we have marketers par excellence. We've got with us Gr8le engineer Mbuthia. We've got Christine Mwaura, George Kamau, and our host, who is a familiar face on our screens, Mr. Waweru Njoroge. And working behind with me in studio, we have Elijah, the invisible on the controls. Welcome, and I hope you have a wonderful show. Mine is not to take a lot of screen time, but more. We want to hear more from our guests. Over to you, Waweru.
Okay, thank you very much, Martin, and welcome everybody to Gr8leadership Live. This is our 4th episode, and thank you so much for all your support, by the way. It really means a lot to us. I'm going to nickname my guests the 3 marketeers. And obviously, there's an obvious pun there. So these are our 3 marketeers. I'm going to ask them to please briefly introduce themselves. I'm going to start ladies first. I'll start with Christine, then I'll go to Gr8le, then I'll go to Joanna. And then we're going to play a short brief video in terms of an anecdotal look at what marketing is about from a dating perspective. And after that, we'll get straight into the show. So Christine, please start ahead. Give us a brief outline of who you are.
Thanks, Waweru. Christine Mwaura is my name. A brief introduction. First, thank you for this opportunity and looking forward to a very interactive session with both our panelists and our online audiences. So a quick introduction of myself. Basically, I'm a commercial leader with marketing and portfolio management, as well as P&L management, with an expertise and focus around marketing specifically. I have experience in the FMCG sector, telco and education technology in East and Central Africa. I have worked on heritage brands. For those who have been brought up in Kenya, I've probably worked on most of the brands at one point in my life, which you have probably grown up using. So this would be the likes of Vaseline, Omo, Sunlight, Vim, Tusker trademark, which would be Tusker Lager, Tusker Malt, Tusker Cider, Tusker Light, and as well as Blue Band Record, Lady Gay, and Lux, and so on and so forth. So I'm happy to be here and looking forward to an engaging session with everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Over to you, Gr8le.
Good evening, everyone, or wherever you're tuning in from. I hope you're having a lovely time. My name is Gr8le engineer Mbuthia. The first question I usually get is, are you sure you're a marketer? Because your name is engineer. So that means you cannot possibly be a marketer. So engineer is my name and marketing is my profession. I have experience in the marketing profession for over 25 years. I've been mainly in the pharmaceutical industry. I started my career out in sales, went into marketing, took up very many different roles, and I used to work for a company called GlaxoSmithKline. I was there for 17 years and then decided to move into the world of academia. So currently I am with Strathmore University Business School, where I am an executive coach. I also train and teach in several different marketing courses, and I assist entrepreneurs as well grow their businesses by looking specifically at how we can help them. And so I'm excited to be here because I'm sure you're going to get a few tips and tricks on how you're going to make marketing really work for you in your business.
Thanks so much, Gr8le. Joanna, just take it away, and then we'll come back to the video about marketing, what marketing looks like from a perspective of dating.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all in our Gr8leadership show. So my name is George Kamau Njuguna. I basically, when I wake up in the morning, I wake up to teach and train. I offer private consultancy in marketing, strategic management, and overall business management. I have worked and consulted in different levels, for different spectrum of clients, which include both public and private universities, non-governmental organizations, government bodies, and small and medium enterprises. So that's basically me as a marketer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George. Martin, I believe we have a video on standby. Can we just play that and we get into our questions? And you see, this is the joy of doing live shows. People don't realize they're muted. So they're talking, we can see their lips moving, but we can't hear the words that are coming out of their mouths.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks for that. Anyway, yeah, we have a video over here that will just kind of give us an explanation of what marketing is about in a way that we can relate to. Yeah, so let's just enjoy that.
So in the simplest term, that's a rather humorous way of looking at it. It's a humorous way of looking at what marketing is. I don't know whether the three marketeers are going to agree with that. This is Great Leadership Live. And our three marketeers today are Christine Mora, I've got 3T engineer Mbudhia, and I've got George Kamau. So I'd like to just jump into the first question here. I already asked you what your superpowers are in terms of what you do, what your background is. What I'd like to know from you is basically what good aspect of marketing have marketers neglected in recent years? And I'll ask 3T to take that for me first. So what good aspects of basic marketing have marketers neglected in recent years?
All right, thanks for the question, Waweru. Marketers really have to move with the times. One of the things that we have found happening is the disruption that has occurred with the COVID-19 pandemic, and all of us are right in the middle of it, and especially marketers. Now, being able to embrace digital technology is really one of the things that I think a lot of marketers are still struggling with. We talk about digital marketing, we talk about digital strategy, but we still have huge gaps in terms of being able to help our businesses to be able to use the technology that exists and move ahead and be able to connect with the individuals that are our customers. The second thing I think is embracing data and analytics. That's another area that marketers really struggle with. And you find that a lot of times people fear numbers. I'm not too sure why. I think sometimes people choose marketing because they believe they want to run away from numbers, they want to run away from the financials, only to realize that as a marketer, you must have a grasp of the numbers, because if you are supposed to help a business deliver a profit, then you've got to understand your numbers, you've got to know how to read a P&L, you've got to know how to take insights from your customers, convert that data into quantifiable trends. And these are the trends that actually help you make decisions. So for me, I would look at those two as very key areas for marketers right now, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, and moving forward as well.
Okay, thanks, Ruti. There's some questions I'm going to ask you about how to do marketing in COVID-19, but I'd like to ask George whether you'd like to expound on anything that 3T has just put in, or in your perspective, what are the things that marketers have been neglecting in recent years?
Currently, I think marketers have overlooked the customer overall. People think marketing is just trying and selling your item, but overall there is a very big importance to try and understand who is your customer, because the individual or the business who will buy goods from you ultimately will determine whether you're able to make money or whether you're not able to make money. So it's very, very important to understand who your customer is, because they will drive your revenue, the money that you are able to make. And without the customers, mainly you don't have a business. So it's very, very important to understand the customer. And most marketers have overlooked that. They are not able to identify who specifically is my customer. So I think as we continue with the discussion, we'll try and expound on it a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, George. Christine, anything you'd like to add in there, please?
Sure, and I do agree with both 3T and George. But what I'd like to emphasize on when it comes to digital marketing is the e-commerce aspect of digital. And this is about integrating your payment systems into your digital platforms, because it's there's no point of advertising and putting your product or service on e-commerce or digital spaces if you're not going to integrate a customer service element, you're not going to integrate a payment solution into that. And as well as that gives you an opportunity to have data and to analyze data and therefore see where are you getting value from, who are your customers, and how you're going to retain those customers on your platform or for your product. The other element is, from what 3T said, there's the P&L conversation. Marketers tend to run away from the mathematics, but remember you're in business to make money. So you need to understand your profit and loss statement. What is driving the profit? What is driving the loss? And how can you rejig those elements within your P&L and within your business to actually deliver value and profit and cash at the end of the day, because cash is king, yeah? Then also there's the element of innovation. Is your product or service innovative? Is it differentiated? Is it relevant to your current consumer? And therefore that gives you an absolute niche or an absolute consumer base that you can speak to, because it's very clear what you're delivering to them in terms of value, in terms of product and service.
Okay, thanks, Christine. Moving from there, I'd just like to ask this question then, because something you've touched on in terms of something I've just triggered a thought in terms of people always kind of prioritize money and spend it in a different kind of way, and they never look actually at the marketing aspect. So I wanted to find out, how do you actually increase marketing's relevance and influence in actual organizations themselves? If that makes sense. George, I'd like to ask you that question. So that's basically, how would you increase marketing's relevance and influence in organizations? Why is it important for them generally?
From where I stand, I think marketing is very, very important in the overall promotion and success of the organization. So if you are not able to carry out proper marketing, if you are not able to adapt proper marketing strategies, then however good your product is, you miss on who to sell it to. So it's very, very important to try and get the grip of your marketing activities as an organization. So this helps you to touch base with the proper customer base. And this will ultimately offer you value for your products. So hence the need to carry out proper marketing activities. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thanks, George. Christine, I'd like to ask the same question. How do you increase marketing's relevance and influence in organizations? You've got a boss who's there saying, I don't have the money, I can't do this, I can't do that. So where's the proof? Is it in the eating of the pie, or is it an aspect of show, don't tell? That's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of.
The proof is in the eating of the pie from a marketing point of view. Mm-hmm. And I strongly believe that marketing is the core of most organizations or most businesses, because there's no point of having an amazing product or service and you're not going to sell it or put it out there or drive awareness around it. So marketers, the biggest challenge in terms of ensuring that the department remains relevant and drives influence within the organization is it must demonstrate and deliver value for the organization. And this is through having very clear objectives for the marketing activities. So for example, if we are putting out a new product or service in the market, then it should be very clear where we're saying one of our objectives is we must drive penetration, or we must drive awareness. And therefore we should be able to track this particular objective and actually demonstrate it back to the business that our awareness when we started was at 0, and now 2 months, 1 month, 6 months down the road, we are sitting at 20%, 30%, or 50% of our core consumer target. Yeah. So that's one element. You must deliver value and demonstrate that value. The other element is you must course correct, because it's one thing to have your plan and your objectives on paper, but when you go to the ground, there are many other factors that actually implement and affect your plan. So are you course correcting, or are you stuck saying, you know what, I had planned to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to stick with that? You must course correct, because the market influences do influence and impact your marketing plan and your strategy. The other element is marketing is a department that has to lobby, because every aspect of that organization or business must understand the role of marketing and the value marketing brings onto the table. And it's important for marketing as a department or as a team to understand all the other aspects of the business, because without understanding that, you will go and overpromise things that you cannot deliver, and therefore put pressure on your other departments and peers, because you went and said, I have a glass of water. As soon as you pour the water into that glass, it gives you minerals. Whilst we know R&D are not able to deliver that, and therefore you're overclaiming and therefore selling a false promise. So it's about lobbying and working with all the other departments so that you're able to drive relevance and influence within the organization.
Thanks, Christine. Thriti, and this is going to probably be a follow-up to what Christine and Joanna have just spoken about. But from your perspective, and you can actually then go out of what Christine and Joanna are saying, but as you then lead the question now, what company is a good example of marketing today? Yeah, what company is an example of good marketing today in terms of who do you marry, who do you say these guys have got it right?
All right, so I think my favorite company to use as an example, and I'm told that I overuse this example, is Safaricom. All right. Now, there's several things that Safaricom does right. Let's start with innovation. Safaricom is always at the forefront of innovation. So all the time, they have something new coming out. For example, recently they introduced an option for people to be able to read newspapers. So they partnered with the media houses, and you're now able to use Safaricom bundles to read newspapers online. A few weeks ago, they also had something they introduced that was supposed to prevent someone else from registering SIM cards under your name or using your ID fraudulently. So they would send you an SMS and you have to confirm that it's actually you and you've given permission. So innovation is key. And I don't think that they would be able to do this if they didn't have a very strong research department that is the one that actually drives the understanding of what customers really want and what customers really need. Because when you're listening to the customer, it becomes very easy to address or to come up with new things that you can put forward to customers. And they take those products up very fast, simply because you're meeting the needs and wants of the customers. And that's really what marketing is all about, yeah? But the second thing that they do very well is building their brand. So not only have they created brand awareness and brand recognition, because we are what, maybe 47, 50 million Kenyans, probably every single person in Kenya and beyond the borders has heard about Safaricom as a brand. So they're always constantly in our face, reminding us, brand reminders, making us feel like they add value to our lives, making us feel like they can connect with us. And I think those are the elements of an organization that is really concerned about their customers. Again, recently, what did they do? They allowed customers to be able to use their bonga points for shopping, or you can donate your bonga points as well. So for me, I look at Safaricom as an organization that has been able to come to the forefront, demonstrate wonderful marketing techniques, and they have really embraced the principles of marketing.
Okay, thanks, Triti. And obviously, we're going to try and continue this thread through. So if there's anybody who wants to then continue and say, as an example of a company, I'd like to point out A, B, C, D. But I'm looking from something that Triti has just said that's triggered the thought I just had. And that lends itself to the aspect of branding. A lot of us tend to be like goldfish sometimes, 3-second memories, and it's here for a minute, then it's gone. It's a very short memory span, in other words. And what I want to ask is, why don't people care if a brand is here today and then doesn't exist tomorrow? Where's the loyalty to brands? Why is it that we're so fickle, or is it that we have so many different things we're trying to go on or trying to do that, brands here simply, they're here today, gone tomorrow? I'd like to ask Christine to please take that question.
I don't think there's something called brand loyalty. That is a concept that existed probably 10, 15 years ago. And that was because there were very few brands that offered the same value or the same product and service. Now, looking 20 years later, many brands, you have very many options as a consumer in terms of whether it's a product or a service. And what I know is consumers are looking for brands that they connect with, brands that seem to understand their lifestyle, their values, their personality, and reflect that as a brand. Therefore, there's a whole concept around the leaky bucket, and I don't want to get into the technicality around that. But the challenge is brands need to remain relevant. Brands need to connect with consumers throughout. We've seen during this COVID period, quite a number of brands stopped their marketing activities. And this is because uncertain times, the strategy you had suddenly changes or is not relevant anymore. And most companies and brands have sort of struggled to sort of come in and be a voice. And the voice is not to be an expert around health, but it's just to reiterate and say, you know what, we're going through a pandemic as a human race, and we're here. We're going to walk through this together. We are together. and just talking to the consumer, even if you're repeating the same message the Ministry of Health has shared, but that tells your consumer that you are relevant, you are aware of what's going on, and you are with your consumer without being very fake. Because I can't tell you, and I'll use a brand that I've worked on before, drink a Tusker and forget about, you know, this COVID period. It's about social distancing. If you still want to enjoy that beer, then do it within the confines of your home, yeah? But we're here to support you, and that's why we are sort of supporting the element of do not stay out or do not go out if it's not necessary. So it's about remaining relevant and understanding who your core consumer is and what their lifestyle values are, and therefore being very intricate within their lifestyle and adding value from that perspective.
Okay, thanks, Christine. I understand. George, can you give us a brief, it's a follow-up to that question again, the aspect of brand loyalty. Do we have brand loyalty? Is it a myth? Does it exist? And then I'll ask Kriti, because I know you have something to say about that as well, please.
Okay, brand loyalty keeps changing. Yes, we'll have brand loyalty for some time. How well the company is able to sustain that, that's what is important. Because today you could be the big fish, tomorrow someone else comes in to play. Every organization basically wants the world to know, what am I offering? What's my product offering? What's my service offering? And if you're able to broadcast your message out to potential customers, then you're able to bring them in, you're able to entice them to buy your products. But tomorrow someone else comes with a unique identity. Someone else is able to be smarter and connect with your customer much more better. So they'll change, they'll jump ships. That's very important. So for every person doing marketing, for every organization trying out to market their products, they need to keep their pulse, their fingers close to the pulse. Get to the heart of your customers so that they remain loyal to you. We've seen an example of brands where people will spend sleepless nights. They'll not sleep overnight to wait for the new release of an iPhone. While I know they'll still be in the shop 2 weeks after the new launch, but it's that connectivity. Someone feels that this is so close to me as a customer. So each organization, marketers need to understand this. It could be you today, but if you're not able to sustain that, then they will jump ship. Using perhaps the example Christine has said, we are talking about Safaricom today. A few years, for those who've been longer before, we had Telcom, we had Kenya Posta and telecommunication, but they are long gone. So they're in the same industry, but times have changed. We don't know what tomorrow holds. So Safaricom likewise needs to rope it in and continue with the momentum. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Actually, something you touched on there for fear of missing out, especially the iPhones and the concept of FOMO actually starting from a concept of after 8 dinner mints. That's a story for another day. Thriti, what were you going to say about brand loyalty?
Okay, so I want to look at it from 2 perspectives. One, there's what the customer is going to do in terms of being loyal or not being loyal to a brand. So the interest in hanging on to a brand is an emotional one, all right? Let me take the example of supermarkets. We've seen that supermarkets like Uchumi went down and now they are virtually non-existent, all right? But I can tell you that there are individuals who were die-hard Uchumi shoppers. They would only go to an Uchumi, all right? This meant that the other supermarkets could actually not get hold of these customers. Why? Because there was an emotional attachment. You know, when we talk about brand loyalty, it really has to do with an emotional connection you have with the brand. Now, this is not, say, a milk brand. So if I'm looking for milk for my tea and I don't find Ilara in the supermarket, I can go and pick a packet of KCC. In marketing terms, we call it switching. So as a customer, it's easy for me to switch. Now, as a marketer on this other side of the fence, I've got to make it difficult for the customer to switch. And I think banks are very good at doing that. For example, even if you're unhappy with a bank, you are not very likely to change very fast, because it's not a simple thing to open a bank account, transact with your business partners, let everybody know that you have changed your bank account. So they want to keep you in there. And what can they do to ensure that you're there? They would try to entice you with offers. They would try to entice you with a loyalty scheme. They give you points. They make sure that they add value to you in such a way that the service that they provide, the experience that you are actually going through, is the one that's going to make you loyal. And remember that when you're looking at it from a marketing perspective, you better deal with the customer you already have in hand and try to drive brand loyalty rather than spend a lot of money looking for a new customer, because it's expensive to look for a new customer as compared to putting in effort to retain the ones you have. So build the brand loyalty there and make sure that it also translates into another addition, value addition for you as an organization. Someone who is brand loyal becomes an advocate. And not only do they advocate for your brand, but word of mouth is a very powerful tool that they can then use to ensure that they are talking about your brand. That's an inexpensive way for you to be able to, in quotes, market your brand, word of mouth marketing. So I see brand loyalty as something that we need to really tap into. We need to drive it, and we need to ensure that our customers are loyal to us.
Thank you, Thriti. There's something Mato has just said he wanted to tell me, yes.
Yeah, I think Christine wants to add something to Thriti's comments, and before I ask my next question.
Sorry, Christine, my apologies.
Okay. No worries, Waweru. So I agree, consumer engagement drives loyalty, but also there's something around price and product that we shouldn't walk away from. So we know the pricing of a product and what the product delivers from an emotional and functional benefit point of view does drive loyalty, because it influences the average size or average number of times the consumer buys this particular product, which therefore sort of drives the conversation around loyalty. So in marketing, there are two elements. Is what we call penetration, which I think is a conversation that will come up, a topic that will come up later on, maybe in this particular episode. But loyalty, basically, product and price drive loyalty significantly from a marketing point of view. And there are certain things from a marketing perspective that you can do to drive those two levers to continue driving or deepening your loyalty with your consumer. But I totally agree. It's about consumer engagement and the emotional engagement the individual or the consumer has with this particular product or service.
Thanks, Christine.
Good. So just a reminder to those watching us now, since we've touched on branding, next week's show is actually branding. And we've got some interesting guests next week who will take us through the whole branding thing. As we all know, marketing is it's big, it's huge, it's vast. And coming back now to tie in this show with last week's show. So last week's show, we had cottage industry. We had producers who are making various products, from chili sauces and moringa-based products. So Christine, maybe you can walk us through in very layman's terms for those watching who have got business ideas and all that. So my product is ready, and hence the topic of marketing in this week's episode. So I've got my product. Then what next? What are the steps that will get my product to the shelves? Basically, the route to market.
Thanks, Martin. So before you get to the route to market, there's a lot of work that needs to happen in the background before you get to the point of I'm ready to put this in front of a consumer. So one of the elements is we've all heard about the marketing strategy, and everyone talks about a marketing strategy. And I guess when you Google, you find marketing mix and all manner of interesting lingo around that. So basically, your marketing strategy is factors that you can control to influence the purchase of your product or services to a specific target audience. And what I know is from an entrepreneurial or a marketing point of view, we tend to forget who is my target market. And we forget to either define that, or we are so generic about the definition of this particular person that we are aiming at no one in particular. So what I would ask you as an entrepreneur or somebody who's just created that particular source, please try and describe who you're targeting. And it would be nice to give them a name. So for example, I'm targeting a busy mother who's aged between, let's say, 28 to 40 years. She has kids between this age and that age. She would love to give fantastic, delicious meals to her children, but doesn't have the time or doesn't have help that at home that can deliver that. And therefore, they want to buy sources that they know they are nutritional, they are delicious, they are healthy to their children, and therefore limit the amount of time they're spending in making wholesome meals without feeling guilty. So it's very, very important that you actually describe to the T your customer, because also that helps you understand what is the lifestyle of this customer, where do I find this customer, how do I talk to this customer, and so on and so forth. So part of your, before you even get into your marketing strategy, please kindly define who your customer is. Then there's an element of what you call your marketing strategy. And I know there are elements around the 4 Ps, the 4 As, and so on and so forth. And just getting into what the marketing mix is, or what we call the marketing strategy. It's about your product, it's about your price, it's about place and promotion, with your target market sitting right at the center of that particular conversation. So that is what you need to define, your target audience, then what your marketing mix or your marketing strategy is along those 4 Ps that I've mentioned. And then from there now, when you already know what product you're giving, what are the benefits of that product, what is the price in comparison to competition, and what your consumer can afford or your target market, where are you going to place this product? How conveniently can your consumer find this product? And also, what promotional strategies are you going to put into place? And promotion is not about shooting a new TV ad or putting out a radio ad or a newspaper ad. We are in the advent or in the era of digital marketing. So your social media, your websites, and all manner of interesting things around pop-up shops, farmer markets, and all manner of interesting spaces that you can actually sample and give out your product. We also tend to forget about our neighbors, our family members, who are also quite influential in terms of word of mouth. Because if your product is really nice or really brilliant, or your service is really brilliant, remember the one person you sell the product to or samples the product and really loves it, talk to another people. And that is exponential. So it's the same sort of power that digital marketing and social media marketing also has. So that is what I would look at in a nutshell.
Okay, thanks, Christine. In fact, that lets me to then lead on to what I was trying to mull about. What you've touched on is obviously the 4 Ps, which are considered the bedrock of the marketing mix. And we've had aspects of the 4 As. I'd like to look at the 4 Es, and 3T and Jogona. I'll start with Jogona, then I'll move to 3T. With regards to the 4 Es, engagement, experience, exclusivity, and emotion. Now, could you so kindly get our viewers to understand that by expounding on that aspect, the 4 Es, engagement, experience, exclusivity, and emotion. So Jogona, if you could take that for me, please.
Thank you, Njoroge. So basically, in relation to the 4 Es, engagement is how do you engage with your customers? What's the meeting point that you're able to engage with your customers? Relating this to a small, medium enterprise, not to a big corporate, basically. Are you selling to your customers directly? So if it's a face-to-face interaction, then you have an aspect that you're able perhaps to get feedback from your customer. to relate this to the last week's previous products, the sauces, I think there was also baby food. So those sauces that you're making, the moringa that you're selling, how are you able to determine that truly these people need my product for this purpose? Then you align your product with the needs of the customer. So it's very important to have an engaging platform that you're able to thrive on. The experience that the customers derive from your product, ultimately it will determine whether you're able to sell or whether you're not able to sell, because the product is meant to satisfy a particular need of the customer. So from their experience, they will be able to broadcast about your product through word of mouth. The experience, the value that your customers derive could be tangible or intangible, and that gives them, like we've discussed previously, that passion in relation to your product. We've seen where at times people don't care so much about the price of the product because they get a higher value, and price doesn't determine that too much. While in some cases, then people will be very sensitive with the price, because now price determines what value am I getting from the product. So it's very, very important to be able to understand what experiences your customers derive from your product or service. Exclusivity. It's important to note that everyone else can do what you're doing today. They can offer the same product, they could offer the same service. So you need to do it better than anyone else. You need to have an advantage. We relate to it as a competitive advantage. What makes you so special? What makes your product better? What value does the customer derive from it? So if your product is perhaps can be easily imitated, then there is no exclusivity. So you need to make that product better. Last week we saw the moringa producer had the powder for kitchen recipes, and they had tea bags that are moringa flavored with other flavors. So that makes it special than the normal moringa we'll see in packets being sold all over town. So that's the kind of thing that you need to bring it out, a higher competitive advantage, which at the fourth E was emotion. So for emotion, basically, we are all human, yeah? So today you will have a product and offer it to someone and they'll go like, okay, that's just the normal, yeah? You haven't touched their heart. And you'll offer a product and someone will go, wow, they're excited about the product. So everyone should aim to create that wow effect, because once the customer is attached to your product, they will come over and over to buy the same product. They don't even think about any other products. So it's very important to create that emotional connection based on you're selling to human beings. And it still goes back to exclusivity. There's that they think this is special than the other. So of importance is the 4 E's: engagement, experience, exclusivity, and emotional. Make it work for you with engaging the customer on the 4 E's. Thank you.
Thanks, George. I'm going to shift gears to COVID, but I need to ask Triti a question before we get into that. I'd like to ask you to summarize your digital marketing strategy philosophy.
Digital marketing is an area of marketing that is upcoming. A lot of us think that we know digital marketing because we engage in activities like having a Facebook account or having an Instagram handle. And so we are all sort of pseudo digital marketers. But when it comes to digital strategy, the definition of strategy is that it's a plan, a vision, something you have for the future. So that means that you need to come up with a proper plan and a vision that is going to take you or help you to build on the digital platforms that you have available and take you to a particular place. Now, if you remember, there's something Christine mentioned about setting objectives. You've got to set your objective right at the beginning as you come up with your strategy. What exactly do you want to achieve? Do you want to achieve more people to know about your brand? So we call that brand awareness. Do you want more people to recognize your brand? So that is brand recognition. Do you want more people to purchase your brand? So that is brand uptake. What exactly do you want to do when it comes to your strategy? So set your objective and then work on the plan that helps you to come up or push that strategy along. Now, there could be so many different things or so many different ways in which you can do that. So, for example, when it comes to digital, it could be content that you are focusing on, creating the right kind of content that is relevant for the customer. It could be communication. How do you ensure that you have communication on all your platforms that is consistent, such that when the customer is seeing that communication, when they're seeing your branding, they're able to see the right kind of information that is out there. So it's a huge area where you would literally sit down for a course, maybe a 14-week course that would just touch on digital strategy. But in a nutshell, we can say it's a plan that helps you to come up with the right kind of things that you can do on digital platforms that can help you achieve your objectives that you want at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Triti. Of course, you're watching Great Leadership Live. This is episode 4. We're talking to the 3 marketeers. That's Triti, Engineer Mbudhia, George Ogona Kamau, and Christine Mora. Now, we are running fast out of time. Time flies when you're having fun. So I want to shift the gears, and it's something that obviously all of you have touched on. And there's a whole aspect of, COVID. Basically, COVID has created a lot of Pollyanna phrases like hashtag together, alone together, and those kind of things, which might address the aspect of the emotionally drained. But what types of strategies from a marketing perspective do you reckon, or would you suggest that they could use to address the financial strain? So you have the aspect of emotional drain, and that's all taken care of by those hashtags alone together. But then what marketing strategies can you then look at to address the financial strain? And I know we've touched on them briefly, but I'd like to expound on that. I'll start with Christine.
Waweru.
She hasn't give her time to explain.
So, yes.
I can repeat the question, or do you?
Yes, I'm trying to pick. So there is the emotional aspect.
Okay,
so
what I say, yeah.
The financial?
The financial, I mean, okay, like what? The financial drain. So you've got an emotional drain and you've got financial strain. The financial strain, obviously, is because a lot of people, exactly in terms of what a lot of people are doing, living hand to mouth. What are people doing now to say, okay, fine, we understand the kind of grief you're going through, so we're going to give you either what they're doing with banks, moratoriums and that, so you don't have to pay for your mortgage right now. We'll give you a 3-month moratorium, or we'll reduce the price of. It's not like promotional to say buy one get one free, but in the shadow of COVID, what can companies actually do then to say, we understand you're under financial strain, and or give us examples of how you would do it or where you've seen it being actually done.
So let me start by saying that
it's still you, Christine.
Yes. Yeah. Let me start by saying that every business or every entrepreneur or service provider or product provider is struggling and grappling with the same problem, because no one gets into business not to make money. Therefore, the struggle is, how do you still add value or give value and seem to be humane to your consumer base or customer base, as well as still continue making money, because you still have to pay bills, you still have to pay your suppliers, your employees, and so on and so forth. Therefore, what I know, and I don't want to mention specific brands, but what I would say is, what I've seen is different sectors giving different offers. And I can go back to the Safaricom example, where they're converting your Bonga points into actual currency that you can use in supermarkets, and working with those partners to be able to alleviate the financial strain and drain. We've also, like the example you've given, banks saying, you know what, I'm going to give you 3 months before you start paying, reorganizing yourself to sort of pay back whatever mortgages or loans you have taken. Therefore, for smaller businesses, what I would say is, look at what added benefit can you give. So if you're selling sauces, is it possible to give a bundled offer of 2 or 3 different sources where you're not going at a loss, but you're giving a value, whether it's 20 shillings off, or you're giving a purchase on gift, a gift on purchase, sorry, so that there's a lot more value you're giving to your particular consumer, and therefore they're able to see that you are connecting with them, and you do understand that they're going through financial drain, and as well as you still make money without having to shut down your business or go at a loss. I don't know if that was
thanks, Christine. I'd like to ask Triti this question. No, I think a lot of people are going to get value from that. I'd like to ask this question very quickly. First to Triti, and we're now going to keep it tight and bright, so I need very quick answers. What kind of lasting impact will COVID have in marketing as a whole, either locally or obviously globally? So that will go to you, Triti. What kind of lasting impact will COVID-19 have in marketing? And as Triti is asking that, George, I'd like you to explain to us the fact that the way COVID is actually now turn the world on its head. Could it be safe to say that it's no longer marketing is no longer talking about values, it's talk about demonstrating those values? So Triti, I'll go to you first, then Jogona, then we'll start coming to wind up this wonderful show. Thank you guys, by the way, it's been very engaging. So Triti, so lasting impacts of COVID?
All right. So one of the things that definitely is going to change, has changed already, and will continue being different is one of the keys. Waweru, do I go ahead?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, great.
Please go ahead.
So I was saying, one of the things that has already changed and going forward is going to continue with the change is the P of distribution, the P we call place, yeah? And this has been a big change. So we're seeing a complete overhaul in terms of how distribution is being carried out. Christine alluded to the e-commerce that is now coming up even more. But you can see that distribution has changed in so many small ways. For example, in the past, you'd actually need to go into a supermarket and pick up your stuff. Today, you can go online and make an order, and these goods are delivered right to your doorstep. Everyone wants to stay indoors because of COVID. So the question that you ask when you're trying to find out more about a product, the customer asks you, do you deliver? Do you ensure that the product will reach me where I am? So it has completely changed and disrupted the distribution chain. And we are going to have situations where the middleman is actually going to have a challenge, because if, and we've already seen this, we've seen pictures on social media about people going and selling vegetables, opening their car boots and selling vegetables on Kiambu Road. Okay, so it's going straight from wherever it's been purchased directly to the customer. There's no in between, there's no mama mboga in between. So that is the thing that we're talking about. We've got to embrace the fact that the P of place, the distribution chain has changed. And so we have to find ways of adapting to that, whether it is seeing how we're going to deal with customers directly, or whether it's seeing how we're going to use e-commerce platforms, or whether we're going to integrate various different payment models onto our websites. All that are things that we're going to have to consider, and that's going to be the way forward, without a doubt.
Thank you so much, Triti. George, if you could just expand on the aspect of in the shadow of this pandemic, basically, it's no longer about talking about values, it's about demonstrating them. How do brands actually do that, or how do people actually do that?
In relation to the global pandemic, basically, no one is able to predict, like when it will end. So we are all trying to survive and to rise up to the changing events. So for this, we need to remain very, very sharp. And like you've said, basically value has changed. Today, selling to people perhaps is about helping them. So during this current crisis, we've seen organizations that are able to listen to their customers, organizations that are able to understand their customers and find ways where they can step in and help their customers. They are able to survive in the turmoil that's overall happening in the whole world. Another perspective that has led is organizations that have been able to adapt to technology. Their technology today is core to every business. We've seen social media has come up in a very big way. We didn't anticipate this, but now during COVID, more and more people are shopping online. More and more people are having conversations online. A good example is this forum. Yeah, perhaps we would be seated in a studio around a table discussing this, but with the COVID, things have changed. And on the same level, customer attitudes and behaviors will keep changing. So marketers need to start here, know that times have changed. People are working from home. People are shopping from home. People are exercising at home. People are entertaining, learning at home. So these are the changes that we've seen with these changing times. So the digital experience is the new in-person experience overall. So we need to always, as marketers, look ahead. And the best companies ultimately are the ones that will be prepared on how to meet these new changing consumer needs. Thank you,
George. I can see we've run out of time. There's so many wonderful questions that we'd like to ask, but we could always have a part two. I'll have the three marketeers here back sometime soon. So we're watching Great Leadership Live. This is episode 4. We're looking at the aspect of marketing, and I want to do our parting shots, but my parting shot will be based on a question. How can marketing leaders, such as yourselves, be better mentors and true leaders to their teams? Yeah, how can marketing leaders be better mentors and true leaders of their teams? I'll start with Christine. Live shows.
With always the difficult questions, I know. So I think number one is to be authentic, and authenticity means if you don't know, because we really don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. And it's important to tell your team, you know what, I don't know this is going to work. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but let's try. Because for me, to be successful, you have to be willing to make mistakes. And from that, and from making mistakes, then you're able to course correct and as well as learn from that and get better. That's number one. So there's an element around authenticity. If you don't know, if you're not sure, please put it on the table. Number two, as a leader, as a business leader or a marketing leader, you are not a know-it-all. You cannot be the one person who knows everything around marketing. That's why you have a team. Allow every team member, and by understanding their strengths and weaknesses, allow them to take over and to give suggestions and to run with certain aspects of whatever that project is that you're working with. Allow people to give ideas. Whether they work or not is not the issue, but it cannot be that you're the all-seer. Yeah, so there's an element around let your team members come forth and share whatever experience, whatever ideas that they may have. Number 3, lobby your stakeholders. And your stakeholders is your internal stakeholders and your external stakeholders. And let them know we are going through uncertain times. We are not absolutely sure. So let's work together in this journey, yeah, and take a lot of feedback. Marketers tend to take feedback really negatively and personally. It's not personal, yeah. So let your consumers, let your stakeholders come back and say, hey, I think that is rubbish, or I don't like that, or we don't think that, and take that feedback and do something about it. Yeah, so that is what I would say. Authenticity, allow your team members to contribute, and also take a lot of feedback from your stakeholders.
Okay, I'd like to ask the same question to Jigona, and then we'll finish with 3T.
Okay, I'll try and keep it short. As a mentor, basically, you need to be consistent with what you're doing as a marketer and as a leader. As a leader, you also need to remain inspired and be able to inspire your team. So you need to be consistent, and you need to be inspired and inspire your team also. Thank you.
Thanks, George. 3T.
I love what George has just said about inspiration, because I think when you understand yourself, when you're able to self-motivate, when you're able to inspire yourself, that's the only time that you can inspire your team. So it's important for you to look at yourself as a leader, look at your leadership style and ask yourself, is this inspirational? Do I walk the talk, basically? So that would be very key, the self-awareness and being able to motivate yourself, fill yourself up, and make sure that you are fully charged, if I can call it that, to be able to pass that on to the team. But the second thing that I would want to mention, and I must admit I'm biased here, because here I'm wearing my hat as an executive coach. Learn some coaching skills. All right, very simple coaching skills. These are actually very, very useful for you as a leader. And I'll give you 2 examples. One, know how to ask the right questions. So when you ask the right questions and you ask open-ended questions, allow the other person to share the information that you have. So you have team members who are contributing to the conversation, and they have ideas, and you can challenge them and you can support them and ensure that they go ahead and try some of these things. But the other one is listening skills. And we all think that we're very good at listening, but sometimes we're not that good. So we need to practice how to listen. And as a leader, you need to allow other people to contribute and other people to give their ideas much more, because your role as a leader is to sort of bring the whole thing together. So a mixture of mentoring and coaching would make you the ideal leader, especially right now in these challenging times.
Thank you so much, 3T. And on that note, sadly, we have to bring our show to the end. This is Great Leadership Live, episode 4. We've been talking to 3 marketeers, and we're going to have the 3 marketeers back. And I'd like to just throw in my 2 cents in regards to the way we started this show, with a very nice anecdote that says, doing business without marketing is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. So that's my 2 cents for today. So yeah, thank you everybody for actually watching, and thank you so much to our guests for taking their time on a Sunday evening to join us for Great Leadership Live. This is the new time slot we have, obviously, every evening on Sundays from 6 to 7 p.m. And hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Martin?
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. You get to know, the more you believe you know, there's always so much that you don't know. And listening to our 3 marketeers speak has just given me other ideas as well. But I think right now, Waweru, our show is sitting in cyberspace somewhere, and it needs marketing, because we are talking about marketing products that are tangible. I think I need to consult with the 3 of you. I need to consult with the 3 of you. How are we going to market this product that you can't touch? It's just links, numbers, and stuff like that. So I think That's the direction I'll be looking at next. But thank you so much.
So Martin, let me just chip in there. I think we can ask our audience to spread the word, right? If they've enjoyed the show, if they've liked it, then spread the word and let other people know that there's a show that's on at 6 p.m. every Sunday, so that we can have a larger audience and a lot more people can benefit from the experts.
Yes. I think for episode 4, we are not doing badly in numbers, but they need to grow really fast. A word that they keep talking about now is exponential. So our numbers really have to grow, and I'm sure the show will gain traction as we go along. I think we have
more guests like this actually.
Absolutely. But it's amazing. But to those watching us at home, please, next week is a must-watch show. All these shows kind of have they tie into each other, and that's how we've structured them moving forward. So next week we're talking branding. We've got if these are the 3 marketeers, what do we call the 3 brand?
Yeah.
Food for thought.
Give me some time. I'll come up with something between now and then.
The 3 branded
branded something. We'll come up with something for them.
Kenyanize it. You know how we are. Yeah.
Of course.
And especially there's one guest. I think he'll have the right name for that. But thank you very much, guys. It was lovely to have you once again. And as Waweru has mentioned severally, we want to see you back again, because I know marketing is it's huge. It's huge. We can't cover it, not in one show. Maybe we need like a whole season, a whole TV season. But yes, it's been great talking to all of you. Thriti, George, Christine, asanteni sana.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah. We've had fun.
Thank you.
I told you time flies when you're having fun, didn't it?
Absolutely. Indeed.
We are to,
Yeah.